on YouTube. Let's hope for the best. That's grand. Now then, right. You. All there we are. Right. Okay, wonderful. So we've got a lovely piece of learning to do today. It's from Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag. Okay, and it's about the children of Israel actually coming out of Egypt.
Sorry, Yedida.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm struggling to hear you a bit. Am I the only one?
No, it might be me. I forgot to put my.
Oh, that's better.
Sorry, I forgot to clip my microphone on.
Thank you.
No problem. I'm glad you
thank
said.
you very much.
Yeah, I'm glad you said. I'm glad you said. Now then, let's share my screen and we'll start off with our prayer.
Oh, I'd like it a bit louder.
No, it's not bad.
Here we are.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, good. All right. Ribonu lamim v'adonai adonim, ava haman v'slichot, modim anachnu lefanecha, Adonai Eloheinu v'le'avotenu, b'kidah b'shtahavaya shekaraftonu letoratcha u'lavodotcha v'dat hakodesh, ונתת לנו חלק בסודות תורתך הקדושה, מה אנו ומי חיינו, אשר עשית עמנו חסד גדול כזה. על כן אנחנו מפילים תחנוננו לפניך, שתמחול ותסלח לכל חטאותינו ועוונותינו, ואל יהיו עוונותינו מבדילים בינינו לביניך, וכן יהי רצון מלפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, שתכונן את לבבינו ליראתך ולבבך, ותקשיב אוזניך לדברינו אלה, ותפתח לבבינו הערל בסודות תורתך, ויהיה לימודנו זה נחת רוח לפני כיסא
Vix smart yet simple. Bluetooth mode.
כרך ניחוח, ותאציל עלינו אור מקור נשמתנו בכל בחינתנו, שיתנוצצו ניצוצות עבודך הקדושים, אשר על ידם גלית דבריך אלה בעולם, וזכותם וזכות אבותם, וזכות תורתם ותמינותם וקדושתם, יעמוד לנו לבן לקבל בדברים אלו. ובזכותם תראיננו במה שאנו לומדים, כמאמר נעים זמירות ישראל, גל עיניי והביט הנפלאות מתורתך, כי אדוני תן חוכמה מפיו דעת ותבונה, יהיו לראות צונים רפי, וגאון ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי וגורלי. Amen. Can you hear us?
Amen.
Okay, great. So I wanted just to tell you that one of the people we were dedicating our learning for is now better. He's out of hospital. He's doing very well. Baruch Hashem. So that's very good. That's Yoel Mordechai, who was Ben Mushalea. He's now much better. So thank you, everybody, for our prayers. And we still need to pray for Hanania David Ben Keren Ruth. Sherefuah Shlema. Okay, together with all the wounded of Israel. Now then, let's we go and learn a bit of Beshalach for them. Wow, where am I? Good question. Here we are. Parashat Beshalach. Now this is an amazing. Wait, I'm not sure I'm sharing the right thing. Let's share properly again and make sure I am doing the right thing. That's right. This is a beautiful, beautiful letter that Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag wrote in I'm not quite sure.
It's a blank screen.
It's a blank screen.
There's writing on it now. Thanks.
Is it okay now? Okay, great. And it's called Derech Rechoka v'Derech Korova. Okay, the far way and the near way. V'inyan Chazara leMitzrayim bizman milchama. And what does it mean going back to Egypt in the middle of the war? So at the time of war. So let's just start off by looking at the actual Torah, which I've got ready here somewhere, which I can't find. 1 second. Try again. That's the one I want. Okay. So let's just go back one. Here we are. Parashat Beshalach. Vayihi Beshalach Paro et ha'am, and it came to pass when Pharaoh sent away the people, v'lo nacham Elohim derech eretz Plishtim. God did not lead the people by the way of the land of the Philistines, ki karov hu, because it is near. K'amar Elohim peninachem ha'am b'otam milchama, because God said maybe the people will repent when they see war, v'shavu Mitzrayma, and they'll go back to Egypt. So God took the people around about by the way of the wilderness, Yam Suf, to the Red Sea, and the children of Israel went, it's Hamushim, but usually it means, like most people translate, like 1 in 5 who could have gone out of the children of Israel went out of the from the land of went out from Egypt, actually went out. Okay, so that's the piece we're going to be looking at right now in our letter. So here we are. So what does it mean? Why did God take them a long way round? All right, if you look at the map, it's very clear that if you want to go from Egypt to Israel, the quickest way is just go to the top of the Sinai Peninsula and just go straight. You'd get there pretty quick. All right, it's not a big deal. When it's what was the whole issue? Why did they have to go all the way around like this? So the scripture says, "Peni nachem ha'am," lest the people repent, b'otam milchama, when they see war, v'shavu Mitzrayma, and go back to Egypt. But wait a minute, when they went to the Red Sea, they didn't see Pharaoh's chariots zooming up behind them? I mean, what was the issue going on here? So in order to really understand what this sentence means, what this whole idea is Rabbi Ashlag explains its inner meaning in connection to our work. Okay, because as the Zohar teaches us, we're not actually talking about historical event. We're talking about, though it did, I mean, I'm sure it happened in history also, but what's important for us is its meaning in the present, okay? So that we ourselves need to see ourselves as if we're coming out of Egypt. What's the Egypt? The will to receive ourselves alone, okay? And now we have to understand which way we're going, why we're going this particular way. So in Yan Karov, Nikra Karov Lasechel. So Rabbi Ashlag explains that the idea of near means near to our understanding. What makes sense to us? V'rachok me'asechel, something which is far from our understanding, something which doesn't make sense to us. כי השכל מחייב שיותר טוב היה אם הדרך לבוא לארץ ישראל, היינו להיכנס בעבודת השם, והקדוש ברוך הוא צריך לעשות שכל אחד שמתחיל בעבודת השם יעבירו מר ומתוק, על דרך שמובאה בהקדמה לספר פנים מסבירות. So what is he saying here? According to our understanding, okay, if we're on the way to come to the land of Israel, now what's the land of Israel? Eretz, the desire, Yashar El, that all our work should be straight to God. That's what Eretz Israel means according to the language of Kabbalah. Okay? So it says, okay, I want to get from my will to receive myself alone, which is my Egypt, and I want to come to the consciousness where my desire to serve God is clear, and I just want to be Yashar El, straight to God, that I want to come into my Avodat Hashem, my service for God. Well, it's obvious, isn't it, that Haya Kadosh Baruch Hu tzrich lasot, that God should have done it, so that every single person, when he begins his service of God, should feel good to him. Okay? What does that mean? Is that when we serving God, it should feel sweet. It should feel great. It should feel fantastic. It should feel joy, right? That makes sense. And if we slip off the path and go back into our will to receive for ourselves alone, then it should taste bitter. We should get this bitter taste. Like, oh no, where have I gone? And then you come back to the path again, right? Wouldn't that make sense? Now, when we were still in the Garden of Eden, before there was the sin of Adam, that in fact was the case. What was good in reality tasted good, gave us a good taste, gave us a good feeling, gave us joy. And what was bad in reality tasted bitter. And that was the original clarification of bitter and sweet. Okay? And animals, to some extent, still have this. Okay? If something is good for them, they will naturally eat it. Okay? And if something's bad for them, they'll avoid it because they still have an instinct which is telling them that if they're attracted to it, it's good for them. Okay? And that also to our minds makes sense. But following the sin of the tree of knowledge, the clarification now becomes what is good and what is bad. Okay? Now, what is good is that I'm in connection with the Creator, that we do our work and we're in connection and love of the Creator. And what is bad, okay, is that I'm disconnected from the Creator. Okay? Everybody clear with that? So it can have the situation that something tastes sweet, tastes good, tastes delicious, and nevertheless, it's bad for us. In other words, when we're using our will to receive for ourselves alone, okay, and we're actually disconnected from the Creator, it can be very enjoyable. All right? At least for the while that we're enjoying it. Nevertheless, it's bad because we're disconnected from the Creator. And the other way around is also true. It could be that he's tasting something which is bitter, like, oh, it's hard, it's difficult, why? Nevertheless, it's for his benefit. Now, according to the way we understand things with our mind, okay, it should have been that the sweetness of Torah mitzvot should have been revealed. Okay, should have been obvious to us. Should have been that when we do a mitzvah, it tastes wonderful. Because what would be the result? We'll do another mitzvah. Yes? And it will taste even more wonderful. And then we'll do another mitzvah and it'll taste even more wonderful. Okay? And we'll get happiness and happiness and happiness because of the mitzvot that we're doing. And what we would also think would be that in the material things, there shouldn't be so much joy. But because a person longs for pleasure from his own basic egoistical nature, which is his nature, which comes from the purpose of creation, which God's purpose is to give goodness and joy to all created beings, okay? And therefore he has a will to receive that pleasure and joy. Then when the joy in Torah mitzvot would be revealed, then everybody would simply give up the material world and put all his effort into Torah and mitzvot. And everybody's saying to ourselves, well, what's wrong with that? Okay, sounds good, doesn't it? But the answer is no, it's not so good. And the reason is that our will to receive for ourselves alone is very addictive. In the Talmud, the sages describe it as you give it one portion, it wants two. You give it two portions, it wants four. You give it four portions, it wants 100. If you give it 100 portions, it wants 200, and so on and so forth. Okay, our will to receive for ourselves alone is very addicted to light. So what would actually happen? We would actually, if we're doing the Torah mitzvot and receiving the pleasure on the spot, okay, before we've corrected our will to receive for ourselves alone, we would be like mitzvah junkies. Okay, I'm serious. We would really be mitzvah addicts. All right. When my kids were young, we used to sometimes take them down to Tiberias to the Kinneret, buy an ice cream, and do what you normally do with kids at the Kinneret. And we used to go to Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes. There's the Tana Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes is buried there, and it was a wonderful opportunity to go and daven there, and I liked it very much there. And in the corner of the room where his kever is, there was a machine. One of these machines where you have you put the money in and out comes a drink or out comes a packet of crisps or something. Okay, so there was a machine like that. You put the money in, but instead of out coming a packet of crisps, out would come a little book of Psalms, or out would come a candle or something. And my kids thought this was hysterical. They thought it was very funny indeed, and it was funny. But what I find it so illustrative of is this whole issue is that if the delight in Torah and mitzvot would be actually revealed, we would be like at the cash machine all the time. We would be putting the money in the slot to out come another mitzvah. All right? And that's what the Creator doesn't want. He wants us to come to him through free will. He wants us to come to him as upright beings with our free choice, free will, not addicted, not like robots, not like slaves, but free people coming to Eretz Israel, okay, coming to the land of Israel, Yashar El, from our free choice, okay? And that can't happen so long as the desire to receive pleasure and joy is fulfilled instantly through the Torah mitzvot. Okay, so do you see the issue here? Masha enken shebegashmet megulim atanugim u'b'Torah mitzvot yesh hastara. So what do we find in our lives in actual practice right now? We have that in the material world, okay, the joy is evident. Okay, you get a nice cup of coffee, it feels good as it goes down, all right? Or you get something, I don't know, something a bit more bigger, people get a new car or something, and they're thrilled, whatever, okay? So there you have pleasure in Gashmiut, in the material world. And what do we find? We find Torah mitzvot yesh hastara. But in the pathways of Torah and mitzvot, there is concealment. Lemashal, for example, כשאדם לובש ציצית, if a man is wearing tzitzit, אינו מרגיש בזה שום טעם. He doesn't feel anything particular. This is like he's talking to an ordinary person, מה שאין כן, כשלובש בגד חדש, whereas when he puts on a nice new suit, הוא כן מרגיש טעם. He feels wow, he feels good, right? לכן קשה לקיים את התורה המצוות. And because we are pleasure seekers, because that is our basic nature. It is very difficult for us to fulfill the Torah and mitzvot. And this is called derech rechoka, the far way, the long way round. Whereas if the joy in Torah mitzvot would be revealed, this would be called the close way, the made it life easy. Does this mean to say that there is no joy in Torah mitzvot? No. In fact, it's the opposite. The sages tell us that the true joy of one mitzvah, it takes all the pleasures of this world, put them all together, and it outweighs it by far. Okay, the true joy of one mitzvah. And we have 620 pathways, each of which can bring us, which we can fulfill and bring the light of God towards us. Not only towards ourselves, towards the whole of creation. There are 620 channels, which are the numbers of the mitzvot, the number of the mitzvot. But you can't do it when we're in when we're in opposition of form from the Creator. When we're only wishing to receive, okay, pleasure and light and joy without looking at the desire to give, without looking at being in affinity of form with the Creator, or if we only want to receive ourselves alone without looking at the rest of humanity, then in fact we cannot receive the joy through these channels. It's as if we're actually blocking them up. Okay, and this is the protective mechanism that the light in Torah and mitzvot is hidden from us until we've actually corrected our difference of form from the Creator. So this is the reason why God did not lead them the short way via the land of the Philistines, because he said, if they were to see war, they'll go back to Egypt. What is this about? Because then if they see war, אז יגידו, הלא כל מה שאני עוסק בתורה מצוות הוא בכדי שיהיה לי תענוג. Everything why I'm practicing Torah mitzvot is because I want to get pleasure. ולמה ללכת למלחמה? So why should I go to battle? שיהיה לי יותר תענוג? I'll have more pleasure? No. אני מסתפק בזה תענוג הגשמי. I'm just going to be satisfied with the material pleasure. What does it mean by this? What is the war that you can see? The war is with himself, okay? The war is with the desire to connect with God, to do the Torah mitzvot through faith, okay? And the desire to receive benefit, the desire to receive joy, okay? Ala makom. Now, this is a real act. I mean, he's actually describing a real situation for us. That if we have the option of doing the mitzvah, okay, or the option of receiving something in the physical world of pleasure and joy, how difficult it is for us to opt for the mitzvah when the mitzvah does not bring us instant gratification in the way that the satisfaction of our will to receive ourselves alone in the material world does. Okay? And when you're caught with this sort of decision, this dilemma, all right? All right, that's the milchama. So what is he saying? He says, if they see milchama, shavu mitzrayma, they go back to Egypt. They'll go back to the will to receive themselves alone. מה שאין כן, כאשר מוליך אותם בדרך רחוקה, which is not the case when God leads them the long way round, okay, היינו שהבירור של תורה ומצוות הוא בבחינת טוב ורע, where the clarification of Torah and mitzvot is not the issue of whether it feels good or doesn't feel good, okay, but it's the issue of whether it is good or whether it's bad. Okay, that's what we need to be looking at. Is it going to connect me with my creator or is it not? So that's the real clarification. And I think it's a very important one to remember, because in these modern days that we're all in right now, the whole issue of what I feel and what I don't feel has become like absolutely forefront. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I think it's right and proper that we should know what we actually feel, okay, and be honest about it. I was listening to a very inspiring talk that Rabbi Gottlieb had with some young people, I think it must have been, in a little yeshuv south of Hebron. And he said to them, he said, be honest. Don't do Torah mitzvot like a robot. I mean, when we say the words, do we actually mean them? Can we relate to them? And he says the first thing to do is be honest with yourself and know what you really, really feel. And because the Torah is actually about the truth. And what is the truth? The truth is what we feel. Rabbi Ibn Ezra says that the whole of the Torah is only given for the heart. What's the heart? Our feelings, what we truthfully feel. So we need to actually, first of all, be aware of what we really feel, okay? And let's say a person prefers to go on a tiyul, okay, rather than daven. Or a person prefers to, read a novel rather than daven, for example. Okay, so first of all, have the awareness of what we really, really feel, okay? And then when we really know what we really feel, then we make our decision to do the mitzvah that is presenting itself to us at that moment, okay? Not because it's going to satisfy some, feeling, but because it's tov, okay? So that we do it out of faith, even though I have that feeling, that other feeling, never mind, I can feel that, put it aside for the moment, and go in faith, okay, and connect with the Torah mitzvot from faith. And that is derech rachokah, okay, that's the long way round, because it's harder to do, okay, but nevertheless, it's true. It's a true way. It's the derech hatov. It's the clarification of not what feels good, but what actually is good. Not what feels sweet, but what actually is good. Okay? Because this idea of going in faith is actually doesn't fit with our human mind. But if he says, never mind what I'm actually feeling right now, I can feel my feelings, put them on the side, that would be feeling my feelings is the left-hand line, okay? And then I go to the right-hand line and work in faith nevertheless. As makom lachzor, he's not going to go back to Egypt now, okay? He's going to keep going. Because the moment somebody really begins to say, I want to serve the Creator, he knows it's only this way that we can actually reach the destination. How does he get to know this? Okay? Because he read it in a book? No. It's because of his own experience with himself. All right? We know what the feeling of the will to receive oneself alone actually is. Okay? You get a sort of high at that moment, and you feel like a punctured balloon afterwards. Okay? So you enjoy it at the time, but it leaves you with a bad taste in your mouth. Okay, it doesn't give you lasting joy. The pleasure it gets is short-lived. Okay, it's called a nitzotz. It's called a spark because what's a spark? It flares and dies. All right, but that's not the case of the pleasure we get from the desire to give to the Creator or to give unconditionally to our fellow human being. That is true eternal pleasure. Okay, and but it doesn't come straight away. Okay, we have to work first of all in faith, learning how to give unconditionally without looking for the instant reward or the instant feedback. Okay, we have to learn how to give unconditionally. Okay, and then gradually, when God sees that we're managing to keep going with faith, then the tzinorot, the channels of the Torah and Mitzvot will eventually become able for us to receive the light which is deposited in them. Okay. אבל באמת צריך לומר. So in truth we need to say, אם בתורה מצוות יהיה מגולה התענוג, איזו עבודה שייכת שם. If with the Torah mitzvot, with the Torah mitzvot, the joy would be obvious, instantaneous, revealed, what sort of work is there? It's clear that our work does need to be intended for the sake of heaven. Why? Because otherwise we're not in affinity or form with the Creator. And if we're not in the affinity or form with the Creator, then the truth is that the light can't flow. It's like to get electricity to work, you've got to put the plug in the socket. Yes? And the plug has to fit the socket. It's no good if you've got a plug which doesn't fit the socket at all. All right? Now, if we're not in affinity or form with the Creator, in other words, He's giving to us unconditionally, but we're just wanting to receive, then it's as if you've got a sort of plug which doesn't fit the socket and you can't get the two to connect. All right? But if we are both in the same desire of giving unconditionally, and doing the Torah mitzvot through faith is giving unconditionally, then it's like you've got the right plug on the socket, you can plug them in, and the light can flow. And when it flows in that circumstances, it does not damage our connection with the Creator, because we already corrected our vessels for the sake of giving before the light came. Now, if it's difficult for a person to intend for the sake of heaven, then what is he likely to do? Because then he'll go back to materialism. Because at least there he can get some joy. Even though the joy there is actually very small. But in spirituality, you don't get anything if you're not able to intend for the sake of giving. Now, intention for the sake of giving there's the mocha v'liba, okay? So mocha is we have the desire to know, we want to know with our rationale that we're on the right direction. No, what we have to do, we go with faith, okay? We do our best and go with faith, all right? And faith means jumping into the Red Sea without knowing quite what's going to happen next, all right? Like Nachshon. And I think we are very often moving forwards in faith in our spiritual lives is like jumping into the Red Sea, okay? The will to receive for oneself alone is very familiar to us, okay? It's a very familiar milieu for us. We understand how it works. We've grown up in it. We've lived most of our lives in it. We've got experience with it. We know how it works. But when we go into the will to give unconditionally, it feels exactly like stepping off a cliff each time. Okay, like you don't know quite what's going to happen next. And like Nachshon jumped into the Red Sea. Okay, it does feel like a jump. And what is really interesting is that when you take that step, okay, and you move into this new paradigm of the will to give, things open up in the most unexpected ways that you couldn't not possibly have known beforehand. Okay, and so this is what he says here, lo yachol lekaven, lo notnim lo shum davar, because you really have to know that you don't know what to expect. You know there's no instant light there. But when a person begins his work for God for the sake of giving unconditionally, he begins to habituate himself to the way of giving. In other words, it's always a new experience, like I say, jumping off the cliff or jumping into the Red Sea or whatever metaphor you like. But what you do get is you get more practiced at the whole idea. Okay, so even though each time it's a struggle, each time it's a new, but nevertheless you become accustomed to the way it works. Okay, so the battles with himself aren't anything new. You're used to it. It's what happens. A person is used to battling with himself. He's used to the inner battles. He's more likely to succeed. That he doesn't return to Gashmiut, which is the will to receive oneself alone, to Egypt. Okay, so here we've got a lovely explanation with Rabbi Gottlieb. Rabbeinu, that's Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag here, describes here two situations. Number one, Eretz Pelishtim, the land of the Philistines. He says that means a person who is fixed in the idea of receiving pleasure and joy. And he uses the clarification of what is bitter he doesn't want, and what is sweet is what he's looking for. He wants to feel good. What he wants is that the joy and pleasure in Torah mitzvot should be clear and obvious to him, and it should be hidden in the material world. But what's actually happening in this case is a person is fulfilling the Torah mitzvot for the sake of receiving pleasure and joy for himself. Such a person, when they say to him, you can get more pleasure if you intend to your work only for the sake of giving unconditionally, which is actually going into battle with your own self. Lo yutzeh. He's not interested. He doesn't want that. 1 second. He'll say, it's enough. What I'm getting in Torah mitzvot, even though it's for the sake of receiving, that's okay for me. And if people suggest to him, or the Torah suggests to him, okay, or his Rav suggests to him that you should go for the work for the sake of giving, or God suggests to him work for the sake of giving, no, he'll just give up. He wants to go back to Egypt. He wants to receive the joy of Torah mitzvot, because he prefers a little amount of pleasure, without war, rather than a big amount of joy with the battle with himself. But a person whose basic tendency is already working for the sake of giving, the way he clarifies things is say, am I on the true path or am I on the wrong path, the false path? And he's not looking for joy in his practice of Torah mitzvot. That's not what he's interested in. Okay? Pleasure he can see in the material world, but that's not what he wants to be. He wants to be what is clear and good in the sense of being in for the sake of giving. What does he do? He battles with his own rationale and goes forwards in faith. ממילא קשה טובים ממנו ללכת במלחמת השפעה, גם לגבי אורות רוחניים, אין זה מפחיד אותו. And if he sees that he's got a battle on his hands between his own will to receive himself alone and the desire to give unconditionally, it doesn't frighten him off. He says, it's okay. All right? He doesn't straight away say, oh, I've got to go back to my previous way of just looking for pleasure in my will to receive myself alone. Okay? Because he understands that there is no other way. Accordingly, the idea of the Philistines here means receiving the pleasure and joy in the physical world. And this is the reason why God did not let them go by the Philistines, okay? Because it's too close to the nature of receiving of the human being. But he took them, he takes them by the way of faith, which is the way of giving unconditionally. Okay? Great. Did you get all that?
Maybe not all of it, but it was good.
All right, terrific. All right, so now there's one other bit. Yeah, we've got 15 minutes. But I made a note, Kuf Ein Bet. Right. Daber b'nei Yisrael v'Yisrael. Okay. Speak to the children of Israel, and they should go forwards, travel. Okay. Lidsoa. Shalom v'kol tuvsali yididi mo'i v'rabi, or something like that. Mo'enu Rav. B'tshuva l'michtavchim, in answer to your letter. I wanted just to let you know that I haven't got anything further to add. Speak to the children of Israel, and they should go forwards. Now, the issue of the journeys is known to you, that it means we need to go from the first state to the second state. This means that we need to move forwards in consciousness. As my father, blessed memory, said, the Perusha Sulam, on the explanation of the Zohar, al pasuk Yom leyom yabir omer, day by day he speaks his word, and he wrote there, she'if shal yom echad yom acher yom, bli shesh matzav shel laila beintaim. You can't have day after day without there being a situation of the night in between. In between the day, there has to be a night. All right? Which means a day by, otherwise it'd be one long day. So what does he mean by this? The day is the time when the light of God is revealed to us, okay? And the night is the time when God's light is concealed from us. Okay, so we progress through ups and downs. Okay, we go forwards and then we lose it. And then we go forwards again and we lose it again. That's the way it works. So there's times when God's light is revealed to us and times when it's more difficult and it's hidden from us. Okay, the same thing, Laila Laila Yahavedat. So that in between each night, there is a day. Okay. And this is the way we travel forwards. Don't be afraid of different states. Just go forwards. Lalechet kadima. To go forwards in our work. In other words, what I wanted to say was the bit about just switch this off. Right. That when we were looking at whether receiving pleasure or not receiving pleasure, where we're going forwards in faith, we have to know that there's going to be times when we manage it and times when we don't manage it. Okay, there are times when it's going to be easier, which would be when the day. And there's time, and I don't mean the physical day, I mean the times when God's light is shining for us and it's easier to go in faith. And there's times when it's harder, okay? But that's the way we progress, okay? Day by day, meaning day, night, okay? We don't go just all the time it's easy. Because one of the things that happens is we make up our minds, yes, I want to go in the way of faith, I want to do what's good, I want to be in connection, okay? And then what happens is we start off and then we lose it and we get disheartened. No, that's the time, Dafka, to stay in faith and to realize that even our falling down is part of the process, okay? That we just get up again and we keep going again, all right? It doesn't matter how many times we fall down. We start off in the service of God, we fall down, never mind, okay? Pick ourselves up and we keep moving. That's the idea of Yisrael, okay? And that of moving forwards. Okay? Great. How are we doing? We've got another few minutes. So I want to just spend the last bit of time doing something very different. And that is, here we are, Beshalach PDF. Well, that's not the bit I want. Here we are. So we go back to the text, all right, and let's see what actually happens, okay? V'kach Moshe atzmot Yosef imo, and Moses takes the bones of Yosef with him, keshber hishbet b'nei Yisrael lemor, because he made the children of Israel swear, pakod yifkod Elohem etchem, God will surely deliver you, v'alitem et atzmotai mizeh etchem, and you shall take up my bones from here with you. V'yisur misukot, v'yachanu me'etam, so they moved, like they journeyed from Sukkot. And again, you can certainly take this as being spiritual journeys, all right? It's moving forwards on their path out of Egypt to Eretz Israel, out of the will to receive for themselves alone, to the consciousness with God. V'yachanu be'etam, and they camped in Etam v'k'tzei midbar, at the end of the wilderness. V'Hashem olech lifneim yomam ba'amud la'anan, and God going before them by day in a pillar of cloud, l'anchotam haderech, to show them the way, v'layla ba'amud eish, and at night by a pillar of fire, la'il lahem lalechet yomam v'layla, to give them light, to go by day when God's light is revealed, v'layla when God's light is hidden. Lo yamish amud ha'anan yomam ba'amud ha'eish layla lifnei ha'am. The pillar of cloud did not depart by day, or the pillar of fire by night from before the people. 1 minute, now I want to get to the next chapter. And God spoke to Moses, saying, Daber ubnei Yisrael ve'ashuvu yachanu lifnei pi ha'achirot ben migdol uben hayam lifnei Baal tzafon nichachot tachanu al hayam. Speak to the children of Israel, and they should turn around and camp by Pi Hachirot, between Migdal and the sea, before Baal Tzafon, opposite, they should encamp by the sea. So this was not an accident that the children arrived at the Red Sea. Okay, God intended that they should get there. V'amar Paro lifnei Yisrael, v'vuchim hem ba'aretz, sagar alehem hamidbar. So Pharaoh, who is the ultimate of the will to receive for himself alone, will say of the children of Israel, they are tangled up in the land, the wilderness has closed about them. And I will strengthen the heart of Pharaoh, and he will pursue after them. And I will make Pharaoh hard, and all his host, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord, and they will do so. So this is like the prophecy, okay, that what's actually happening is that the will to receive oneself alone is a very, very, very tough klippah. It's a very difficult klippah, and the one who has to deal with it is God, okay? All we can do is our best, but then it's God himself who has to deal with the actual Pharaoh. And it was told to the king of Egypt that the people had run away. And the heart of Pharaoh and his servants turned around yet again. What have we done? That we sent away Israel from serving us. Okay, because the will to receive wants all our energies to go to it. Okay, it's not going to give up in a hurry. So he made ready his chariots and his people and took them with him. He took 600 chosen chariots, and all the chariots of Egypt, and the horsemen over it all. And God strengthened the heart of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and he chased after the children of Israel, but the children of Israel are going forth with a high hand. And the Egyptians pursued after them, and they overtake them, encamped on the sea, by the sea. All the horses and chariots of Pharaoh and his horsemen and his soldiers by Pi Hachirot before Baal Tzafon. Uparo hikriv. And Pharaoh, now the English says drew nigh. That's not actually true. Pharaoh brings them near. What does that mean? Hikriv. Hikriv who? And the Zohar says that Pharaoh, because he was coming closer, they came closer to repentance. Okay? So they came closer to God. Pharaoh, hikriv otam lashem. It's like Pharaoh brings them closer to God. Like the awareness of the will to receive for himself alone, chasing after us, okay, wanting us to serve it instead of serving God, comes, what does it do? It's coming closer and closer. It's chasing after us. But what we need to do is cause us to turn closer to God. And the children of Israel lifted up their eyes and they saw the Egyptians traveling after them, and they were very frightened, and they cried out, and the children of Israel cried out to God. They prayed. Vayitzak is to pray. And they said to Moses, isn't there enough graves in Egypt that you take us to die in the wilderness? In other words, to die, to get separated from God here? What is this you've done, Lord? To take us out of Egypt. Isn't this the thing which we told you about in Egypt, saying, Hadal mimenu, leave us alone, and we'll serve the Egyptians. Okay, even like this is kind of like the discussion within ourselves. Okay, that it was brought in that article by Rabbi Ashlag, saying, okay, even if I can't serve you properly, at least, I can serve the Egyptians and I'll get some pleasure that way. Because it'd be better for us to serve the Egyptians than to have nothing. Okay, then at least I get some pleasure. But Moses says to the people, don't be afraid, stand still, and see the salvation of God, which he will do for you today. Because for us to really be able to overcome our will to receive ourselves alone, we need the salvation of God. As you've seen the Egyptians today, as you see your will to receive yourself alone today, you won't see them again ever. God will fight for you and you will be silent. And God said to Moses, don't shout, don't call out to me, speak to the children of Israel and go forwards. Okay, like we talked about, what does Nisiyah mean? It means go from stage to stage. Keep going. Don't go back to Egypt. Don't get back involved with the Egyptians. You just go forwards, okay? God will deal with their wills to receive ourselves alone for us. Our job is to move forwards in faith. And you raise up your staff, stretch out your hand over the sea and split it in half. And the children of Israel come through the sea on dry land. Now there's a whole lot of issue about why the sea needs to divide, but we're not going to go into that today. And I am strengthening the heart of the Egyptians, like the will to receive oneself alone doesn't give up in a hurry. And they will come after them. And I will get my honor on Pharaoh and his horsemen, his chariots and his horsemen. And the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord, and I get my honor over the Pharaoh, his chariots and his horsemen. Now this is the really, really interesting. And the angel of God traveled, the one who was going before the camp of Israel, and he went behind them. And he traveled, and the pillar of fire which was going before them went and stood behind them. And it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. And there was cloud and darkness, and it lit up the night. And one camp didn't come to the other all through the night. And Moses stretched out his hand on the sea. And the God led the sea with an east wind, strong east wind all through the night. and you placed the sea into dry land, v'yiprakeu hamayim, and the waters divided. Now, if you look at these three verses, v'yisav yavo v'yet, the sages noticed that they all have 72 letters, okay? They all have the same number of letters, and if I sat to sit down and count them up, they are 72. And this is the moment of redemption. This is the moment when the great light of God comes to redeem the children of Israel from the wills to receive for themselves alone, from the Pharaoh who's been chasing after them and wants to enslave them. And there is a beautiful piece here in Beshalach, in the and there we are. Share. Okay. Now, can you see that okay? That's better.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So these are the 72 letter names of God, and they're made up from the letters of these three verses. Okay? And for example, Vayisav, Vav, Yud, Samach, Ayin. Okay? And the first verse goes from beginning to end. Okay? And the second verse goes the other way around. Vav, Yud, it's the second one. Okay, Vav, Yud, Vav, Aleph, Vayavo. Okay, and the third one is Vav, Yud, Vayet. Okay, Vav, Yud, Tet. So you have from the right-hand side line, the left-hand line, and the middle line, okay? And these three lines make up the 72 letter name of God. And this is really, really, really powerful because this is the light of redemption. And the other time when we actually really come across this is actually in the Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur prayers, okay? If you remember in the Amidah of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, it says uvachein, 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 uvachein. Okay.
Hi, can I call you back in 10 minutes? Great.
Okay. Uvachein. Uvachein is, if you add up that word, it's also 72. And what this actually is showing us, that this great light of redemption is present on Seder night, is present also on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, because on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we also need that redemption from the Pharaoh, from our wills to receive for ourselves alone, so that we can come clean for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur to get, or to have the forgiveness that we want to start our new year off fresh. So this is the origin of that 72 letter name of God. And it really is the light of redemption. So I thought that you would be interested to see that. Okay. All right.
Your Dita, what are the three where do I find the three verses in Exodus?
Oh, sorry?
Where do I get the three verses from Exodus to get the 72 name of
right.
God?
1 second. Here. I'll tell you where it is. It's chapter 14, verses, here we are. 19, 20, and 21.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, if you can sit down with it, you can just sit with yourself and just count up the number of letters, and you'll see that's how it's amazing. I mean, it's just amazing to me. It's one of the most beautiful things that you can, the secrets, the code, the light which is in every single detail of the Torah is just phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's really amazing. So, this is one of the things that I just love about learning the Zohar, is that how beautiful it is, that it shows us, so much detail and so much depth, which I think is incredible. Okay, wonderful. All right.
Now,
Thank
you
you so
did
much.
supposedly didn't Moses use those to part the waters?
I really don't know. I mean, God said.
That's what I've heard.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, those three letters are, those three verses are there.
Right.
It doesn't say explicitly that he used those particular names. I haven't read that he did that in the Zohar, so I really don't know where that comes from. But it's possible. I don't know.
I heard this in one of many Kabbalah classes, so I couldn't tell you. I don't remember which, where it was located in the Zohar. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, it's in Beshalach for sure. I mean, there's incredible teachings there. Here.
Yes.
I mean, wait a minute. I'm not sure what I'm sharing here. There's two or three. Here we are. I mean, there's quite a lot of different diagrams.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, really profound to go through these incredible articles. There's more than one article about it there. Okay.
Yeah.
It's and it's profound, and I'm sure, it's got tremendous meaning, and I'd love to sit down and learn it again. And but anyhow, I think just the understanding of how profound the Torah is, that it's so precise, that it's so accurate, that it's got this power within it, so that it's not just it's like you can get lost if you just think of it as historical story, but it isn't a historical story. And I think it's what Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag really brings out, that it's a story of ourselves, it's a story of our consciousness, it's a story of how we ourselves can, choose between our will to give unconditionally and our will to receive for ourselves alone. And it's not an easy choice, because the obvious pleasure is in the will to receive for ourselves alone. And we have to go with faith to move forwards and cross our Red Sea. And we need the help of God to do it. Definitely.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah. I mean, there's a tremendous, it's beautiful. The Zohar is just beautiful here. Okay.
Thank
Wonderful.
Shabbat
you.
Shalom. That's
Thank
you so much.
powerful.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat
And thank you,
Shalom.
Yedida, for your
you.
lovely
Shabbat
teaching.
Shalom. תודה רבה.
תודה.
Oh, okay. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Hi,
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
How you doing? How are you doing, Yedida? Hold on, now I can't hear you, of course. I think you got muted. I can still see you, but can't hear you. Let's see.
I don't know what happened.
Maybe it unplugged.
Is that what?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Oh, well, now you're gone again. It's cutting
Oh,
in and out.
okay.
There we go.
All
Much
right.
better.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
But good to hear you.
There we
Great.
go.